Jean Thornhill, and I am a family law attorney. Been practicing nearly 20 years here in Central Florida. We're here today to talk about child support. Child support is actually very simple because here in Florida, we have Florida Statute 61.30, and that lays out what numbers that you need into the child support calculator. And the child support calculator takes into consideration mom's gross monthly income and dad's gross monthly income, takes out all of the taxes, and brings it down to a net monthly income. Once you get a net monthly income, whichever parent is paying for health insurance for themselves receives a credit, and whoever is also paying for health insurance for the child or children will also receive a credit. You get that credit for medical, dental, and/or vision. You need to also make sure that when you're calculating the health insurance credit, that some employers will do employee, or they'll do employee plus spouse, or they'll do employee plus children, or they'll do employee plus a family plan. And if when you're trying to figure out what child support is for one child, but you have other children or a spouse that is covered on your health insurance plan, you want to take how much you actually pay for the employee and use just that number. And then if you're doing employee plus children, you're going to want to separate the employee part out of it, so you just have the child. Or if you have a family plan that, say, is covering employee, spouse, and 3 children, you want to take out just the employee part, and then you want to divide that out so you're only getting how much credit should be just for one child, because you won't get the full amount for this one child that you're paying child support for. You're only getting the credit that is for that one child. And then whoever is paying for daycare also receives a credit. Now, I'm not talking about extracurricular activities. So if your child is in cheerleading or in dance or in soccer or in taekwondo, that's not daycare. I'm really only specifically talking about daycare. So if your child is 2 years old and is in daycare from 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 p.m. and Monday through Friday, then you're going to want to average it out to what it is monthly, and then give that parent a credit for daycare. However, if your child is 4 years old and is in VPK, and so from 8 to 12 is VPK and it's free, but from 12 to 5 you're in daycare, then you're going to want to only give the credit for the daycare portion. The last number that comes into play is the percentage of overnights. Whatever your time sharing schedule is, you want to figure out what your percentage of overnights is, whether it be 70-30, 60-40, 50-50. Your mathematical equation determines which parent is paying and how much. Then once you come down to figuring out what that number is, then you're going to want to ask for an income withholding order. So that way child support comes directly out of that parent's paycheck, goes to the state of Florida disbursement unit, and is dispersed to the parent that's supposed to receive it for the benefit of the child or children. I had one case one time where parents were splitting the children 1 week with mom and 1 week with dad. So it's 50% each parent. And then mom was a physician's assistant, so she was making over $100,000. But dad was working at Walgreens, and so he was barely making $30,000 a year. And so even though it was 50-50 time sharing, mom was still having to pay to dad child support because mom made so much more money than dad did. So even if mom had the children 100% of the time and dad only had them for a couple of hours a day according to their time sharing plan, an 80-20 split would have put mom still paying dad. Child support continues on until your child is 18, or if your child is still 18 in high school and is going to graduate, then it's whatever that graduation is. However, if they turn 19 and they're still in high school, then it's until their 19th birthday. There's not really a way that you can avoid paying child support, because child support is a financial obligation that you are responsible for paying when you have a child and are put on a court-ordered child support number. So even if you are ordered to pay a certain amount each month and you lose your job, or COVID happens and you are now furloughed, and so you haven't been getting a paycheck for however many months we've been sitting here, well, the obligation still remains. The clerk's office, the Department of Revenue, child support is still accruing each month. And even though you're not paying it, you are now delinquent. And once you become delinquent, then that back support that you haven't been paying continues to add up. The other parent can file a motion for contempt and argue to the court that here is a court order saying that you owe this child support and that you have not paid any, and because of that you should be sanctioned. And by sanctioned by the court, you could have your driver's license suspended, you could lose any type of medical license or CDL. Also, you could be taken into custody and a purge amount would be set. And if you do not pay that purge amount, then you're looking at sitting in custody and in jail for up to 6 months. So it's very important that you stay current on your child support. And as soon as you realize that you are about to lose your job, or you have lost your job, or that your financial situation is changing, you're going to want to go back to court or at least file a modification, because that modification period that you file it is actually setting where your time clock is. So even though child support is accruing all of these months while you're waiting to get into court, you at least, once you do get back into court, you can go back to the filing date as to the date where child support should have been modified. Absolutely. Whatever your time sharing plan is what determines what your child support number is. The percentage of overnights is huge. If parents don't have a parenting plan, if they don't have a time sharing schedule, then the courts will just put in there at 80 to 20%, 80% to one parent, 20% to the other. And so your child support number will decrease because you have more time with the child. But you still have that obligation that you still have to pay. Child support is very important, and you can also go to the Florida Supreme Court website and go to their forms and see the calculator there that they have. The Department of Revenue, if one parent gets any type of government assistance, then the Department of Revenue will get involved. And the Department of Revenue has their own calculator based on the Florida statute. And you want to add in all of the numbers and find out what that child support obligation is. Now, I also want you to keep in mind, though, that let's just say that child support comes out to, throwing out a number, let's say it's $500 a month. Parents can agree that child support obligation will only be $350 a month. Parents can also agree that even though guidelines say it should be $500, that one parent's going to be paying $700 instead. Parents can contract and agree through a settlement agreement, through a stipulation, that this is the number that we're going to use. However, the courts still want the guidelines completed and filed, so that way, if a parent wants to come back later and say, well, I'm paying too much or I'm paying too less, then the courts can say, yes, you are paying too much or you're receiving too less. But that's what the agreement was. And the agreement was not to follow the guidelines. Here's the guidelines, but you chose not to do it. So my best advice is to contact an attorney and decide how the child support guidelines affects you and what the number is that you're either going to be paying or how much as you're going to be receiving. and I look forward to talking to you next time.